Poem by David White. Sweet darkness. When your eyes are tired, the world is tired also. When your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your womb tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds, except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. Welcome to the latest floating poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in to the 71st show in my ongoing weekly series, coming to you live off the Hurricane Henri-soaked coast of Long Island. This is your poet and poetorialist, Colin Goedecke, a voice for living our days more poetically, more expressively, more soulfully. Last week we weaved thoughts and feelings through the twinned themes of passion and compassion. This week a foray into letting go of as a release, freeing, moving on, and letting go into as an opening, a passage, a threshold crossing. From letting go of anything that no longer serves your deeper well-being. Maybe the past, old beliefs, ways of seeing, living, to letting ourselves go into places of beauty, mystery, sensuality, serendipity, more, into the resonance of each moment, into the fully felt connection to your inner self, inner world, to the hearts and minds of others, to the natural world, the wider and wilder world you belong to. Letting yourself go, dive into greater aliveness, wholeness, joy, passion, and expression. Yes. So, to a letting go, let us go. I thought we'd start with the encapsulated man, which could just as well be the encapsulated woman. And I have an image when I have this paired with this poem of, it's a toy figure, but it's I think an Apollo 1, one of the original capsules they sent a man into space with. He's the image at the top, the encapsulated man in his space capsule. Flies through space and time contained by the culture. Content or not, he stays in his suit and well-constructed shell as he rockets, instead of pilots, through life, guided not by his own volition, let alone intuition, but by a distant mission control that's mindful of its own needs, heedless of his, he throughout, rarely, barely, or none the wiser. Psychology Today, Melissa Kirk wrote this piece on the power of letting go. Letting go is always the right thing to do. I'm just going to give you the beginning of this piece. Set a bit of our frame here. Do you remember learning to swim or to ride a bike, that terrifying moment when, if you were like me, you finally conquered the fear of being underwater or of controlling the bike yourself and leapt, hoping you'd remember your lessons and that instinct would take over and keep you safe? Do you remember the moment of realizing that you were doing it? Holy cow, I'm swimming, I'm riding a bike. Even if you tried 1,000 times to do it before, but failed each time, you knew in that moment that you'd finally gotten it. You were swimming, you were riding, and the world was suddenly a much larger place. Do you remember the irrepressible grin, the feeling of swelling pride in your chest? Then do you also remember the fear and anxiety that kept you from making that leap so many times? The times whoever was teaching you let go of the bike and you were overcome with panic and wobbled and crashed. The times you almost put your head underwater but stopped yourself at the last minute. the times you thought, I can't do it. Even as adults, we go through this process many times over our lives. When we think about making a major life change, changing jobs, starting our own business, leaving a relationship, telling someone new that we like them, buying a home, getting married, having kids. Life is all about confronting those basic fears, of feeling pain, of making a mistake, of undertaking something at which we'll be proved incompetent. But as we learned when we were kids, the other side of the coin of the fear of letting go is the jubilation, when we spread our wings and fly, when we're pedaling furiously and look back to realize our dad had let go of the bike minutes ago, when we're swimming like a fish underwater, suddenly realizing that we are, in fact, not drowning. From lonerwolf.com, what is letting go? It means being willing to release the past and future and live in the present moment. Doesn't mean forcing yourself to get over it or making yourself forget what happened. It's a process of surrendering painful beliefs and emotions and welcoming in love, understanding, forgiveness, and self-compassion. There's no quick fix or 5-step solution for letting go of feelings like anger, fear, and grief, because it's a process. It can take a while. But the good news is that it's a process that helps us to grow, mature, and find more happiness and inner freedom than we thought ever possible. Sometimes your heart needs to break a little for the light to get in. The opposite is attachment. When we attach or identify with our thoughts, we suffer. On the other hand, when we stop attaching to our thoughts, simply see them for what they are, energy that we assign meaning to, we experience freedom. As self-inquiry teacher Byron Katie writes, when I argue with reality, I lose 100% of the time. But what does this mean? When we attach to our beliefs about how life should go, we suffer each and every time because we're resisting what is right here and right now. When we resist reality, we also tend to adopt the role of the victim, which causes even greater suffering. I came across a couple of quotes apropos of that. Anis Nin, the writer of The Pastime, early 1900s, anything I cannot transform into something marvelous, I let go. Thich Nhat Hanh, wonderful Vietnamese Buddhist, people have a hard time letting go of their suffering. Out of a fear of the unknown, they prefer suffering that is familiar. Alexander Graham Bell, he said, when one door closes, another opens, but we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we do not see the one which has opened for us. And Joseph Campbell, we must be willing to let go of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. I love that, because I do feel there's so much waiting for us all the time if we can open into it, or when we can open into it, which brought me to a poem of my own about feeling everything. It's amazing how much you can come to feel at the same time, epically, largely, and disparately, and hold many, many, many different feelings at the same time. When you feel everything, nothing is ever the same again. The very molecules inside and around you alter forever. When you feel selectively, or not at all, little changes, maybe a bit of scenery. I know, because I've lived both ways. Feeling immensely and freely now, feeling narrowly and tightly then, when less wise in the ways of life and myself. To feel all is not for the faint of heart, but for those ready and willing to engage. Such a full orchestra of feeling is both welcome and liberating, worth hearing, worth experiencing. Without allowing all the chords, all the notes and passages, how can the symphony of everything within you really play, greatly resound? So, question, where are you holding back on your harmonious passion, your inner fire, desired expression? What and where do you want to release yourself? A poem for those hesitant about passion, a caution for those hesitant about finding, feeling, or sharing their passion. Would you choose to stop your heart from beating, your blood from flowing, your eyes from seeing? No. Why then dam your body of its yearning to flow waters, the tides and rivers of your natural being, the natural orders of all humanly living? On letting ourselves go on our truer life journeys, on our chosen passages, not ones chosen for us. I thought of Muriel Rukeyser's poem, Akiba, The Way Out. It's a much longer poem, but this is this section. The night is covered with signs, the body and face of man with signs and his journeys. Where the rock is split and speaks to the water, the flame speaks to the cloud, the red splatter abstraction on the door speaks to the angel in the constellations. The grains on the sea floor speak at last to the moon, to the noon, and the loud hammering of the land behind speaks, ringing up the bones of our thighs, the hoofs. We hear the hoofs over the seethe of the sea. All night down the centuries have heard music of passage, music of one child carried into the desert, firstborn forbidden by law of the pyramid, drawn through the water with the water-drawn people, led by the water-drawn man to the smoke mountain, the voice of the world speaking, the world covered by signs, the burning, the loving, the speaking, the opening. Strong throat of sound from the smoking mountain, still flame, the spoken singing of a young child, the meaning beginning to move, which is the song, music of those who have walked out of slavery into that journey where all things speak to all things, refusing to accept the curse and taking for signs the signs of all things, the world, the body which is part of the soul and speaks to the world, all creation being created in one image, creation. This is not the past walking into the future. The walk is painful into the present, the dance not visible as dance until much later. These dancers are discoverers of God. We knew we had all crossed over when we heard the song. Out of a life of building lack on lack, the slaves refusing slavery, escaping into faith, an army who came to the ocean, the walkers who walked through the opposites, from I to opened thou, city and cleave of the sea, those at flaming Nauvoo, the ice on the great river, the escaping Negro, swamp and wild city, the shivering children of Paris, and the glass black hearses, those on the long march, all those who together are the frontier forehead of man, where the wilderness enters the world, the song of the world. Akiba, rescued secretly in the clothes of death by his disciples, carried from Jerusalem in blackness, journeying to find his journey to whatever he was loving with his life. The wilderness journey through which we move under the whirlwind truth into the new, the only accurate. A cluster of lights at night, faces before the pillar of fire, a child watching while the sea breaks open. This night, the way in. Barbarian music, a new song. Acknowledging open water, possibility, open like a woman to this meaning. In a time of building statues of the stars, valuing certain partial ferocious skills, while past us the chill and immense wilderness spreads its one-color wings until we know rock, water, flame, cloud, or the floor of the sea. The world is a sign, a way of speaking. To find. What shall we find? Energies, rhythms, journey, ways to discover. The song of the way in. Thank you for that poem. I love this piece of another one of David Whyte's because I think it's so fitting. It speaks to what we hold on to and what we can move away to. That's liberating, expansive, inspiring, affirming. It's called Mamine. Be infinitesimal under that sky, a creature even the sailing hawk misses, a wraith among the rocks where the mists part slowly. Recall the way mere mortals are overwhelmed by circumstance, how great reputations dissolve with infirmity, and how you, in particular, live a hair's breadth from losing everyone you hold dear. Then look back down the path, as if seeing your past, and then south over the hazy blue coast, as if present to a wide future. Remember the way you are all possibilities you can see, and how you live best as an appreciator of horizons, whether you reach them or not. Admit that once you have got up from your chair and opened the door, once you've walked out into the clean air toward that edge and taken the path up high beyond the ordinary, you have become the privileged and the pilgrim, the one who will tell the story and the one coming back from the mountain who helped to make it. Thank you, David Whyte. This is it's a review of the book, The Art of Possibility, which I've read many times, and I encourage you to pick it up if you're interested. It's a marvelous book. There was a sequel that was written by the co-author's wife. This happens to be from Vishnu's Virtues, Lessons from the Art of Possibility. And it's such a good book. I just sort of maybe want to synopsize it a little bit, as they do here. It's a review of the framework through which seeing the world The Art of Possibility, Transforming Professional and Personal Life by Rosamund and Benjamin Zander, who were a couple at the time. He was then the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and she was a therapist. And they point out that if we draw a different frame around the same circumstances in our lives, we will see new possibilities and options. Quote, find the right framework, and extraordinary accomplishment becomes an everyday experience. So they talk about a handful of practices to shift your perspective and open new possibilities. So even if you can't change the circumstances, you can change how you deal with the situations. Here's I'm just pulling out a couple of lines about each of these thoughts that they have. It's all invented. When you're looking at a problem, all the assumptions you make about it are in your mind. The frames our minds create define and confine what we perceive to be possible. Next, stepping into a universe of possibility. Imagine no limitations exist, that the universe is abundant, open, and infinite. If you participate joyfully in tasks and projects, you're more likely to be successful. If you're inclusive and passionate, you're likely to see greater abundance. They encourage you to step away from the world of measurements and scarcity, because in that kind of world, you set a goal and strive for it, but in the universe of possibility, you set the context and let life unfold. They believe in giving everybody an A at the beginning of every relationship, which is not an expectation to live up to, but a possibility to live into. They say you can lead from any chair. The conductor is not the only leader of an orchestra. The active leadership is not limited to people in those positions. Anyone can lead. The player who energizes the orchestra by communicating his newfound appreciation for the tasks of the conductor, or a parent who fashions in their own mind that their children desire to contribute, is exercising leadership of the most profound kind. Don't take yourself so goddamn seriously. It's rule number 6, to lighten up and not take yourself seriously. When you do, you release yourself from egoistic and self-limiting beliefs. The way things are, acceptance of what is, we spoke about that a little moment ago, as well as presence and making the best of any situation. Because you always can turn to the question, what do we want to do from here? That's really a very valuable thought for us. Lighting a spark, inspiring others to pursue their passion, being the board. Declare that you're the framework for everything that happens in your life. It's about exploring the assumptions you make about what's happening and ultimately taking responsibility, creating frameworks for possibility. Don't go with the flow toward an idea or concept that's spiraling downward into the abyss. Come up with bold, visionary missions and ideas that stand confidently in the world. And last, telling the we story. I think this is the most important of all. What do we want to have happen here? What's best for us, all of us, each of us and all of us? So you move from the story of you and me and us and them and get to we. It draws on all their practices, and if you attune your ear, you'll hear the voice of the we singing through each one of them in harmony. So I thank the Zanders for that book and for that review. When you stop holding on, just a moment, I'll need a sip of water. It's rather roasty today. Some of you in the Northeast, it was extremely hot today, very humid, very Sumatran or Javanese, actually, jungle-like. When you stop holding on to the painful, however familiar, and start honing in on the joyful, the beautiful, everything changes, often transforms and transcends. And this poem is called All This Bliss, a poem of mine. All this bliss. Bird song, the smile of a child, blooming roses, white towers of clouds, candlelight, sunlight on water, stars, a soft kiss, stillness. Rabindranath Tagore, the ancient poet, this is one in particular of his poems, that on letting ourselves be and stay present in the gift of the now. And he wrote this back in time, far back in time, hundreds of years ago. On the day when the lotus bloomed, alas, my mind was straying, and I knew it not. My basket was empty and the flower remained unheeded. Only now and again a sadness fell upon me, and I started up from my dream and felt a sweet trace of a strange smell in the south wind. That vague fragrance made my heart ache with longing, and it seemed to me that it was the eager breath of the summer seeking for its completion. I knew not then that it was so near, that it was mine, and this perfect sweetness had blossomed in the depth of my own heart. Thank you, Tagore. Okay. Well, what about letting yourself feel into the earth below and around you? Even now, maybe as you listen wherever you are, let yourself relax and receive. Feel the earth. Slow down, all the way down. Feel the earth, the sentient earth. See and touch it, hear it, taste it. Where you are, wherever you are, let it hold you, let it feel you, let it breathe you, let it fill you. Feel the earth. And feel the light and your lightness. It's all there to fill, to infuse you all the time if you let yourself go there. This was a meditation on the autumnal equinox, which obviously we're sort of moving toward again this year. Feel all the light falling. Let all the light fall today in a rare receiving way, fully, equally, wholly into your hemispheres, your north and south, your left and right brain, your masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, actual and potential self. Pause. Close your sunlit eyes and slowly, slowly breathe. Open, widen. Feel the life-giving, life-renewing rays enter the center, the equator of your body, your being, bringing all parts of your inner world into great balance, bathing all parts of you in greater warmth and health, brightening, lightening your places, crevices, passages of darkness, sadness, hiddenness, shadow. Let all the new light falling, streaming, seeking, find and fill you this day with a keener seeing, sense of turning, promise of becoming. Where to start or restart the releasings from and the openings to? Ask yourself that. You might have your own interesting answers to that question, but I'm asking you, and I'm asking you in this poem, how will you begin or continue to see and feel, bring to light far more of yourself, who you really beautifully and so one-of-a-kindly are? Cast off the cloaks of whatever you're not or thought you had to be. Find and live the unlived, undiscovered parts of your life, the buried treasures of your body, mind, heart, waiting to be discovered and embraced, honored, and expressed. Pose big, beautiful questions to yourself, ones ready to reshape you just by courageous asking, honest pondering. Starting from your soul, begin new conversations, fresh and freeing conversations, with and without words, with the world around you, the people, the earth, and humanity around you, and those you've outworn or have worn you out. Kindle your deeper passions and compassions from glowing embers to roaring bonfires. Reimagine how much more is possible, dreamable, where the world is your oyster, full of pearls. Revisit what is, in this here, this now, most natural, vital, joyful. What brings you alive? Maybe the music of Brahms or birds, the taste of true love, friendship, sunlight. Because another future is calling for you to enter, for you to begin. Brene Brown, who you may know, said this: only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. And from the Elephant Journal, there's this New Age idea that we need to, quote, let go of all that doesn't serve us. But many times when we are involved in a toxic relationship, job, or situation, or we have a toxic pattern or behavior within ourselves, we're unaware of it. We either have yet to fully recognize it or are in denial of its existence. How do we let something go if we're not yet aware of its lack of benefit to our lives or the need for it to go in the first place? When we connect to our feelings and tune in instead of tuning them out, we will know our way. Our deeper feelings are our compass, our, quote, inner guidance system that helps us to direct us on our path. Instead of reaffirming the notion of letting go of all that doesn't serve us without knowing how that actually plays out in our real lives, instead, may we learn to sit with and trust our emotions and allow them to guide us. Whatever no longer makes you feel fundamentally good is likely no longer serving you. Thank you, Elephant Journal. And from the Huff Post on, if it no longer serves you or makes you happy, let it go. And she Tanessa Holt, Holt. Lately, I've noticed that as I grow into my desired version of myself, my vibration is heightened and my frequency is tuned in to others around me. When I'm around people who are low energy or low vibration, it sucks the wind and life right out of me and brings me down to a level that is not my own. When we let go of those in our lives who no longer serve our purpose or we no longer serve theirs, we're making room for more people to walk through the door of our lives and impact us in ways we don't yet know. We hold on to so much because we believe that our past belongs in our future, when really, each person or experience has a part to play, and just because they had a leading role for many reasons, many seasons, doesn't mean that they belong in our feature film. Okay. Letting go of clock time. I don't know if you've done this. Many of us who are artists, it happens often. Leaving clock time and going into jump time, into Kairos, K-I-R-O-S time. Well worth the exploration and very doable, actually. And you may have been there for other reasons, certainly in the presence of wonder, great beauty. This is from The Conscious Dreaming Guide by Robert Moss, which is a phenomenal book. It's been around for maybe 20 years, and I've read it several times. It's extraordinary if you want to get in touch with dreaming and what that may all be about in your life. And he says, Kairos is jump time, opportunity time, the special moment that you seize or miss. In Kairos moments, you may feel you have been released from linear time or that powers from outside time have erupted into your world. The Greeks personified it as a young, fleet-footed god, completely bald except for a curling lock falling over his forehead, hence the phrase, seize time by the forelock. If you meet this fellow on the road and fail to seize the moment, you'll find him very hard to catch. Kairos is slippery. Brutus talks about Kairos time, the time of opportunity, in a famous passage in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures. Thank you, Robert Moss. Letting go of our self-imposed captivities. What about that? Have you thought about that? How do we hold ourselves captive, and where and why? And what some greater freedom requires of us. So listen to, if you'd like, to Khalil Gibran's poem on freedom. And an orator said, "Speak to us of freedom." And he answered, "At the city gate and by your fireside I have seen you prostrate yourself and worship your own freedom, even as slaves humble themselves before a tyrant and praise him though he slays them. I, in the grove of the temple and in the shadow of the citadel, I have seen the freest among you wear their freedom as a yoke and a handcuff. And my heart bled within me, for you can only be free when even the desire of seeking freedom becomes a harness to you, and when you cease to speak of freedom as a goal and a fulfillment. You shall be free indeed when your days are not without a care, nor your nights without a want and a grief, but rather when these things girdle your life, and yet you rise above them naked and unbound. And how shall you rise beyond your days and nights unless you break the chains which you at the dawn of your understanding have fastened around your noon hour? In truth, that which you call freedom is the strongest of these chains, though its links glitter in the sun and dazzle your eyes, And what is it but fragments of your own self you would discard that you may become free? If it is an unjust law you would abolish, that law was written with your own hand upon your own forehead. You cannot erase it by burning your law books, nor by washing the foreheads of your judges, though you pour the sea upon them. And if it is a despot you would dethrone, see first that his throne erected within you is destroyed. For how can a tyrant rule the free and the proud, but for a tyranny in their own freedom, and a shame in their own pride? And if it is a care you would cast off, that care has been chosen by you rather than imposed upon you. And if it is a fear you would dispel, the seat of that fear is in your heart, and not in the hand of the feared. Verily all things move within your being, in constant half-embrace, the desired and the dreaded, the repugnant and the cherished, the pursued and that which you would escape. These things move within you as lights and shadows and pairs that cling, and when the shadows fade and are no more, the light that lingers becomes a shadow to another light. And thus your freedom, when it loses its fetters, becomes itself the fetter of a greater freedom. Thank you, Gibran. Very interesting. Bit complex, but interesting. Letting ourselves be liberated in all ways, shapes, and forms. If others can do it, so can we. And E.E. Cummings sprang into me as freedom is a breakfast food. As freedom is a breakfast food, or truth can live with right and wrong, or molehills are from mountains made, long enough and just so long will being pay the rent of seam, and genius please the talent gang, and water most encourage flame. As hat racks into peach trees grow, or hopes dance best on bald men's hair, and every finger is a toe, and any courage is a fear, long enough and just so long will the impure think all things pure, and hornets wail by children stung. Whereas the seeing are the blind, and robins never welcome spring, nor flat folk prove their world is round, nor dinksters die at brink of dong, and commons rare and millstones float, long enough and just so long tomorrow will not be too late. Worms are the words, but joy's the voice. Down shall go which, and up come who. Breasts will be breasts, thighs will be thighs. Deeds cannot dream what dreams can do. Time is a tree, this life one leaf, but love is the sky, and I am for you just so long and long enough. Thank you, E.E. Cummings. Jean Hirschfield. Harness. Little soul, you and I will become the memory of a memory of a memory. A horse released of the traces forgets the weight of the wagon. I do know what I need to be, or have come to know what I need to be and become, my best ever, better, fuller self. What do you need? How would you express it? I'm intrigued by that. If you want to touch in with me about it, I'd love that, but at least touch in with yourself. And I'd written this back in 2017 when I was really musing very much on this, what I did need. And as a fish needs water, as a bird needs air, as some forests need wildfire to renew, to reproduce, as all mountains and valleys need earth to become what they are, I need nature's elements, its daily nourishments, its wonderments and wildfirings of energy to come more fully alive, to stay alight, to grow, to thrive. When I think of things to move beyond, or that we want to move beyond, I think of getting to everything vital, everything essential, meaningful, inside and around me, and not later, but right now, each day, every moment I can, every hour, going below the surface, with zest, with ecstatic curiosity. And, I look at how others go about it, and there are many ways to get to all this, but this poem came to me, not a spiritual tourist. Fine if you're one who wants point-and-shoot moments of far-flung, well-hung spiritual movements, selfies from old and new self-development courses, books, gurus, discourses. But not for me. I'm here for the genuine articles, seeking and living all the way into and radiantly out from the essential spiritual being I am inside this body, inside this earth suit, seeking everything meaningful behind the facades, under the surfaces, flowing through the molecules. So I encourage you to be your own pioneer, to explore Be an explorer, an adventurer, especially of your interior. One who goes off-piste, off the path where all the magic and mystery I feel is. I've experienced it that way, and you may find it to be so too. Pioneer. You who braves crossing to a new frontier through all the unknowns and unknowables. You who's ready to risk your life for your dreams. You who believe in a more promising, flourishing place where your heart can run free. You, venturer, pathfinder, hinterlander. Declare your independence. That's certainly one of the big first steps or steps of letting go. Declare your independence, your fierce independence. Let go of unserving, undeserved allegiances. Independence of heart, of mind, of body. It doesn't hinge on any government or country, on anything, but our own free will, our own free spirit. Every liberating action we can take, all the liberating words we can speak, stories we can share, hear, live through the mountains, valleys, and great plains of our days. We can also choose letting go into the sensual, the viscerally pleasurable, like this poem of Seamus Heaney's, the Irish poet. Oysters. Our shells clacked on the plates. My tongue was a filling estuary. My palate hung with starlight. As I tasted the salty Pleiades, Orion dipped his foot into the water. Alive and violated, they lay on their bed of ice. Bivalves, the split bulb and philandering sigh of ocean, millions of them ripped and shucked and scattered. We had driven to that coast through flowers and limestone, and there we were, toasting friendship, laying down a perfect memory in the cool of thatch and crockery. I saw damp panniers disgorge the frond-lipped, brine-stung glut of privilege, and was angry that my trust could not repose in the clear light, like poetry or freedom leaning in from sea. I ate the day deliberately, that its tang might quicken me into all verb, pure verb. I thought quite a bit also about letting go of those of us, those people we've known, may know now, who are facing their ends in some form. In my own life, certainly people like my father-in-law, terminally ill, and who embraced their going in some beautiful form. And Jane Kenyon was one of those people, a poet who was fatally ill, and it was, about letting go of who you, how you want it to be, of letting it be as it is, simply in any moment or any passage, like letting nature flow naturally, it and yours. Even that last closing chapter of one's life. This poem is called Let Evening Come. Let the light of late afternoon shine through chinks in the barn, moving up the bales as the sun moves down. Let the cricket take up chafing as a woman takes up her needles and her yarn. Let evening come. Let dew collect on the hoe abandoned in long grass. Let the stars appear and the moon disclose her silver horn. Let the fox go back to its sandy den. Let the wind die down. Let the shed go black inside. Let evening come. To the bottle in the ditch, to the scoop in the oats, to air in the lung, let evening come. Let it come as it will, and don't be afraid. God does not leave us comfortless. So let evening come. In the wild, unhindered parts of nature, the natural world, how it lets itself go, all exuberant. I'm sure some of us have taken that in, or can take that in, will take it. I encourage you to experience that. This was written out in Sag Harbor, 1 January 2018, for a place called Deerfield there that I did a poet in residency at for many months. This is called a Hallelujah Chorus. The gathered trees, encircling stands of scrub oaks, their limbs raised high and so ecstatically to the heavenly winter sun and sky, could be a Hallelujah Chorus, singing in their own deep-rooted way a great song as a wild choir of aliveness. The applied mythologist and master storyteller Michael Meade, who I've quoted here and there, he had this to say, apropos of nature, our Mother Earth. As the chaos in the world increases, most ideas of the future become fatalistic, yet the situation only seems, quote, hopeless when viewed from the narrow logic of a collapsing worldview. Old ways of seeing the world are blocking more vital paths of imagination, vision, and healing. The point is not simply evolution or progress. Rather, there needs to be a collective rite of passage that transforms our worldview. The agony of the earth calls for each of us to defeat the growing alienation and isolation of life in order to become more human and be more present. The issue is not the pretension of, quote, saving the planet, but rather finding deeper ways of serving the earth. What we learn from mythic stories and imagination is how our human nature can make us part of the ground of being and the vital pulse of the living world. Thank you, Michael Meade. The Native American botanist and storyteller Robin Wall Kimmerer. Even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift. So what about letting go of being silent, being hushed, unvoiced, to voicing your essence loud and clear for yourself and for all to hear, to hearken to? Inviting yourself to open out, to sound forth. A poem called Begin Singing Early. Be the first bird at the first light of your day, to fill the silence with song, with your song, with the hymn of your heart, the music of your mind, the melody of your body, with a singular song, one that comes from the mouth of your soul, comes early and daily, when you let nature, your nature, have its open, wide way. So part of this is letting go of being domesticated, I call it, being unwilded, neutered, neutral, monochromatic, held culturally captive. I'm always going the other way as a contrarian, sort of a natural contrarian, of course, among other things. This is called undomesticated. I wrote this a few years ago. Like domesticated dogs and cats, we can have our natural wildness weaned, trained, tamed out of us. Our visceral connection, syncopation with native and nature's rhythms. From our freewheeling spirits to the sheer and pure sensuousness of our bodies. But it can be awakened, unleashed, re-entered, that place, that essence of wildness, if we're willing, if we feel the calling to become liberated, to become undomesticated. So I came back to psychology today on how to let go and free yourself. It does not mean to get rid of. To let go means to let be. When we let be with compassion, things come and go on their own, said Jack Cornfield. There's many wonderful things to say, that fellow. So Eileen Strauss-Cohen, PhD, from her column, Your Emotional Meter. Holding on to pain doesn't fix anything. Replaying the past over and over again doesn't change it. And wishing things were different doesn't make it so. In some cases, especially when it comes to the past, all you can do is accept whatever it is you're holding on to and then let it go. That's how everything changes. And also from the same source, Andrea Matthews. Her column is Traversing the Inner Terrain on how to let it go. They're always telling us to do that, but they don't tell us how. And she said most of the people saying it haven't a clue as to how to do it. In everyday life, it means looking realistically at whatever situation, taking personal responsibility for what one is going to do to protect or take care of oneself, and then doing it. Beyond that, it's allowing oneself to grieve, learn from what just happened, and begin again. And, some people obviously would know what some of the things you want to let go of are, and I came across this piece from wellbeing.com. And she said, I often ask my students, what are you really hungry for now? They don't say French fries or more clothes. They commonly say, I want peace. I want more time. I want to feel more connected, stay in the present moment more often when I'm spending time with those in my life. And she says it's not a tall order, and letting go is the way through that. And she talked about her first teacher and mentor, James Baraz, P-A-R-A-Z, and his book, Awakening Joy, and the 3 types of letting go. Letting go of stories about yourself, that are keeping you wound up, which can be replaced with something more supportive at any time during the day. So I say tell better stories. Letting go of stuff, things we don't need. Stopping looking outside always for pleasure without a strong inner practice, and so we never feel full. And letting go of busyness. It's the one I think we're all in search of. Not me exactly, but most people I know, and I used to be that way. We're so stretched with the information overload and list of never-ending tasks, the musts, the shoulds. And they say sometimes the best way to have more time, connection, and freedom is to commit to less. So thank them for that. And I'd add this, leaving judgment behind of yourself, of others, or accepting judgment of others in judgmental, the way I'm speaking about it, that down way, that negative way. Foregoing all judgment for a way of non-judgment. No judging allowed or left warping anywhere inside. Casting to the winds forever that great destroyer of harmony, that poisoner of possibility between beings, between partners, best friends, communities, countries. Only taking a path of acceptance, daily and ready forgiveness, forgivingness. A blameless place, a liberating place, the heart of the world also longs for. So, I believe we can let ourselves begin again and again in a way. That idea of rebirthing, regenesis, anytime. There are no rules, there are no limits, just whatever we're setting upon ourselves. I think it's part of what we've been talking about here. Just opportunities and possibilities and learnings. And I want to share this poem that I'd written for a dear friend, a soul sister, on her 40th birthday, Rachel Menard Phillips, back in 2009, because it speaks to this. It's called A Time to Begin Again. 1969, the year of women in love. Hair, midnight cowboys. Duke Ellington still swinging at 70, and Judy Garland disappearing over a rainbow. The year of Armstrong's star-spangled moonwalk, and 300,000 letting it all hang out at Woodstock. The year of Mailer's Pulitzer and Welk's Wurlitzer. Of grown ladies donning trousers in large numbers. The year when Rupert Murdoch, rising Baron of Oz, bought the news, and Russians' Venera 5 rocketed off toward Venus while Led Zeppelin 1 floated metallically onto the charts. The year an artificial heart took a miraculous beat, and Javier Bardem and Kate Blanchett became sexy babes in Spain and Britain. 1969, the year of you. That year of first breath, of virgin sight, taste, touch, and pure summer swan song light. Maybe every year or decade each of us can begin again, as you in your already wise soul will in this, to see with an innocent eye and feel with an innocent heart the wonder and color of the world, and bring to it the rays of our own first and purest selves. Time to begin again. Let's do so. I'd like to reprise this poem of Derek Walcott's because it's about letting go of despair and losing heart and letting go into loving ourselves, or loving ourselves again and again, anew. It's called Love After Love. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself, arriving at your own door in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome, saying, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread. Give back your heart to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. Thank you, Derek Walcott. And I say, too, as part of that, letting go of fears that paralyze and isolate us from a beloved, whoever that beloved is. call this no turning away, only turning toward, leaning into each other. When inevitable tempests toss our hearts, shake our trunks and roots, beliefs, feelings, or truths about each other. As a soulful folk singer hymns, take me further in, past the place where love hides its face, and down to where we begin. Not further or farther away. Only finding, deeply facing, embracing each other, holding each other closer, with trusting hands, braver hearts, to make a shelter, safe harbor, through any, all life twists, trials, or squalls. And letting go of aloneness, loneliness, because we can always and lovingly, tenderly be here for ourselves, and to learn to be here, if we haven't figured that out already, for ourselves. You may have heard this from another program, but I'd like to read it here. It's for you, share it. Put an arm around yourself and have a good cry or a good laugh. Allow out a slow, soul-deep sigh. Put an arm around yourself, the arm of your best friend, befriending self, who's entirely there, always here, fully, faithfully, to walk or sit with, in silence, with no judgment, just infinite patience, sweet easiness, whatever the sadness or gladness of your heart, no matter the weather of your day, your life, an arm you can call on, count on, to reach lovingly around you. So as we come into sort of the last stretch here of, for now, what old, unneeded, unserving vows can you cast away? Maybe tonight, maybe now or today. What new and affirming ones, potentizing ones can you bring in, can you make and keep? Vow to keep. So, David Whyte, one more time. This is I feel so fitting, especially as a part of our sort of closing segment. All the true vows. All the true vows are secret vows. The ones we speak out loud are the ones we break. There is only one life you can call your own, and 1,000 others you can call by any name you want. Hold to the truth you make every day with your own body. Don't turn your face away. Hold to your own truth at the center of the image you were born with. Those who do not understand their destiny will never understand the friends they have made, nor the work they have chosen, nor the one life that waits beyond all the others. By the lake, in the wood, in the shadows, you can whisper that truth to the quiet reflection you see in the water. Whatever you hear from the water, remember, it wants you to carry the sound of its truth on your lips. Remember, in this place, no one can hear you, and out of the silence you can make a promise it will kill you to break. That way you'll find what is real and what is not. I know what I am saying. Time almost forsook me, and I looked again. Seeing my reflection, I broke a promise and spoke for the first time after all these years in my own voice, before it was too late to turn my face again. And letting ourselves go into sweet longings and dreamings. Linda Hogan's poem, To be held by the light was what I wanted, to be a tree drinking the rain, no longer parched in this hot land, to be roots in a tunnel growing, but also to be sheltering the inborn leaves and the green slide of mineral down the immense distances into infinite comfort, and the land here, only clay, still contains and consumes the thirsty need, the way a tree always shelters the unborn life waiting for the healing after the storm, which has been our life. Thank you, Linda Hogan. And accepting all and giving a life our all, and why not? And if not now, when? William Stafford's poem, Silver Star. To be a mountain, you have to climb alone and accept all that rain and snow. You have to look far away when evening comes. If a forest grows, you care. You stand there, leaning against the wind, waiting for someone with faith enough to ask you to move. Great stones will tumble against each other and gouge your sides. A storm will live somewhere in your canyons, hoarding its lightning. If you are lucky, people will give you a dignified name and bring crowds to admire how sturdy you are, how long you can hold still for the camera. And sometime, they say, if you last long enough, you will hear a God, A voice will roll down from the sky, and all your patience will be rewarded. The whole world will hear it. Well done. Thank you, William Stafford. It's a poem of mine, Crossing. You, like this or another figure, reconfigure yourself as you cross each new frontier of self. Leave each old veneer of self, whether in light or shadow, through forests, seas, or deserts, whether you're young and callow or older and mellow. It's these crossroads we come to move through, that offer us pauses for deeper reflection, create points of great inflection, expansion, so we might emerge on the other side, another side, reformed, refined, or newly revealed to ourselves and to the world. Okay, next to last now. Letting go into appreciation, into gratitudes of all kinds. Gratitudes and gladness for being alive, for being able to be here on earth at all. This is a poem for presence. I'm glad. I'm glad I'm alive today. I'm glad I could open my eyes, see and breathe today. Could hear, taste, eat well today. Could stretch my limbs, move my body. Take in the softness of the clouds, the greenness of the trees, the summer breeze and blueness of the sky. I'm glad I could find joy today, find ease, feel loved and loving. I'm beyond glad I could be present, so present to this day, to this life, to the world around me, to the whole world within me. And last for now, Passage clouté, zebra crossing. While countless others with the same stripes crossed the landscape the same way, through the same sun-white days and sunless nights, you of a different stripe look under the landscape of your skin to see and find another way to go, to be. Thank you again for leaning in, floating and feeling in from around the corner and around the world. And thanks always to those listening in with delight regularly and letting me know how these offerings from my poetosphere nourish your spirit, uplift your heart, spur greater self-awareness and aliveness in you and in others you share these shows with. If you appreciated this program and wish to make a donation, I'd welcome the gift by PayPal or Venmo or directly through my site or by mail to me at P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891. Patrons inspired to host me on part of their own or another property as a working poet in residence for several weeks or more to bring forth a flight of poetic art and dedicate it to you. Let's have a conversation. I'm here. I also welcome fellow artists to co-create with on projects musical to theatrical and producers, directors, or others seeking a poetic voice. Meanwhile, I'll broadcast our online as replays. I do hope you'll lean in again next week or soon again. Until then, dear listeners, here's to letting go, cutting the cord of whatever your essential self no longer needs or wants or keeps you from living your fullest life, your healthiest and freest way of being, and letting yourself go, making a beautiful choice to embrace, leap into everything and everyone, inspiring, promising, calling you, waiting for you. Everything ready to open you to a more beautiful and soulful place of greater passion, purpose, presence, and possibility. Goodbye for now, and good spirits.